How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, as a follow-up from yesterday, we talked about the David case with the young lady that her body wound up found in a Tesla on September 8th. She was seriously decomposed. She was found in the frunk. That's the front part or the front trunk of a Tesla. And we covered a lot yesterday. It was over 2.5 hour dialogue. So today what we're going to do is we are going to recap a little bit, but if you want the full context, you really got to check out the video from yesterday. I would recommend you watch that first before this one. I'm going to bring my guest on, Denise Schoenwald, and we're going to discuss possible motives. So at this time, they have not mentioned that this was a homicide. Right now, we just have a young lady's body that was found in a Tesla, and we don't know how it got there, and we don't know what was the cause of her demise. But with that said, we have some ideas or some possible motives that could play out. So today's focus will be on that. But I also want to give you some of the latest updates we have just to kind of stay relevant. But again, I'm going to do a recap, give you the latest updates, and then break down some possible motives that could have led to Celeste's demise. And again, my guest today will be Denise Schoenwald. Let me get her on. What's up, Denise?
Hi, how are you?
Good. We have a lot to cover today, but do you mind introducing yourself to our audience, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Schoenwald. Hopefully you all aren't getting sick of me by now. I've been on the show a couple of times, and I'm a nationally licensed mental health counselor. Happy to be here.
Yes, and I do believe my audience knows you very well. So I may ask you to be just a bit patient real quick. I'm going to go over a quick little recap. But again, guys, yesterday's episode was about 2.5 hours. We covered a lot. So many possible connections. We covered it from both the possibility that he could have harmed her or she could have been harmed in general. And then the grooming aspect. She was underage. So today what I want to do is I want to just do a quick little recap. And then after the recap, give you the latest updates and then go into today's discussion. Okay, so I'm going to speed through the recap real quick. So the key figures right now are going to be David, so spelled out D4vd, but his real name is David Anthony Burke. He's a singer and recorder. And then we have Celeste Rivas Hernandez, teenage girl, 15 at the time of her identification. Her birthday was September 7th. Her body was discovered in the Tesla at Hollywood Tow on September 8th. So she was 15. That has been confirmed. The date and location, body discovered September 8, 2025 in an impounded Tesla in Hollywood, Los Angeles County. The Tesla had been impounded after being towed from Hollywood Hills after being reported abandoned. Now, Celeste was reported missing beginning in April of 2024 or during that sometime during that time frame of 2024. They're kind of narrowing it down to April. Now, what was found? Allegation, suspicion. So you have a decomposed human remains, several pieces dismembered inside a plastic bag located in the front trunk, the frunk of the impounded Tesla. So I actually have a picture of I believe that's the same model. That's a Model 3. And that's where they would have found her body. So it's a very small, I think it's like 3.1 cubic feet. I think that was the measurement of that. Like a mini fridge, sort of. Let me just give you a picture of, there's David and there is Celeste right there. Young girl. Here's a picture of Celeste by herself. Okay. The Tesla, again, is registered in David's name or at least links to him, but authorities have not yet named him as a suspect. Authorities retrieved electronic devices, computers, and etc. during a search of a Hollywood Hills residence tied to D4vd. That was after they found the body. They raided the home, and I'll get a little bit more specific in this a little bit today too. Investigators are considering whether there are any prior connections between Celeste and D4vd, like social media, messaging, shared tattoos, like the finger tattoo. Guys, again, I'm speeding through this. If you really want to see how this all connects, you should watch the video I put up the day before. This is just more of a recap. So the legal and investigative status, the case is being treated as a death. It looks like it could be a homicide investigation, but they haven't mentioned it as a homicide. They also haven't mentioned him as a suspect or even a person of interest right now. And they said he was cooperative, but we're trying to figure out what does that cooperation means. And then we're hearing that he may no longer be cooperative, and makes sense. I mean, when you think you can get in there and create the narrative, get a jump start, of course, you'll be very cooperative until investigative agencies start putting pieces together, starts getting some facts, and all of a sudden it becomes a bit more challenging to tell your truth, if you will. So again, though the exact cause of death has not yet been determined, no arrest or charges have been filed at this time, and D4vd is said to be cooperating with police, at least at that time. I'm hearing things may have changed. Investigators await more forensic autopsy toxicology results to narrow down timeline, cause, and any involvement. So what do we have as the outcome, the repercussions? David canceled remaining U.S. tour dates after the body was identified. The planned deluxe version of the album Withered was shelved or postponed pending the investigation. Brands and collaborators began distancing themselves from him. So like Crocs, Hollister, they're removing him out of the campaigns. Even there's a singer, I always say her name wrong, but I think it's Kali Uchis, she's going to pull a collaborative track that they were working on. And then there's public scrutiny, intensified discussions of lyrics, music videos, overlap with events, some pointing to parallels. Again, I discussed this in yesterday's episode. The online community backlash, accusations of moderating or deleting critical posts in his subreddit. The subreddit was locked now. A vigil was held in Celeste's hometown, that's Lake Elsinore, California, demanding justice. Celeste remains have been released to her family. Funeral is scheduled. And then the questions that we don't know yet are, what's the cause of death to be determined via ongoing medical forensic analysis? What is the time window of when she died and when she was placed in the car? And I'm going to discuss that real quick because that's extremely important. The car and the body is very central because that timeline is extremely important. So I have an update on that. What is the nature of any direct connection between David and Celeste? That's what they're working on now, especially because she was underage. So we have possible grooming and possible sex assault charges. Again, he was of the age and she wasn't. He would have been 20 when she was probably around 14 or 15. And if they, as you can see in the other video I did, if they would have first met in 2022, which could be the case, depending on what's being said on the Discord, and if that really is the Celeste, then she would have been about 11 or 12, and he would have been probably somewhere between 17 and close to 18. And by the way, even if he was a minor when they met and she was a minor, once he became an adult, he's an adult. So again, what's the time window of when she died and when she was placed in the car? What is the nature of any direct connection between David and Celeste, if any? Whether any charges will be brought, and if so, against whom? And what additional evidence, digital surveillance, witness testimony, etc., might emerge, and how public legal pressure will influence the investigation, the investigative pace. Okay, so that's a quick recap. When I say quick, guys, that's quick. We dived into that deep in the video we did yesterday with retired detective Lieutenant Joseph Pangaro. So now I want to give you guys some updates, and I want to also talk a little bit more about the car, and then we're going to go into the straight discussion. So bear with me. Okay, so remember I said the car is central to this case because that's where the body was found, and we need to get a timeline. And there is some information coming out there that can help us with the timeline. Now, the information I provide right now looks to be factual. It comes from a channel that I watch. I think it's called NBCLA. And he shows you how he gets his information, how he does his research. So he created a pretty nice timeline of the car, when it was parked, when it was taken to the impound, and when they discovered the body at Hollywood Tow. So I would like to read this because this will give us a bit of a timeline. Then some of the updates that I'm going to send you real quick. It's out there, but it hasn't been confirmed, but it's out there. And it's out there through what would be reliable sources, but it still has not been confirmed by law enforcement. So I'm going to reiterate some of the narrative I just mentioned, but I got some more details this time about the car. So on September 8, 2025, a black Tesla with Texas plates was found abandoned in the Hollywood Hills and later impounded. I think that's it right there. When workers at the tow yard noticed a strong odor coming from the vehicle, police obtained a search warrant. That's key. Even though they had the smell, it's very key that the officer on that scene made sure they get a search warrant so we don't deal with any due process BS if this later goes to trial. So whoever thought of that immediately, bravo on that. Inside the front trunk, investigators discovered human remains. Those remains were soon identified as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas of Lake Elsinore, who had been reported missing about a year earlier. The Tesla was registered to pop singer David Burke, known by his stage name David, D4vd. And again, the 4 is from Fortnite, we believe. At the time of the discovery, he was reportedly on tour out of state. I think since then he's canceled his tour. His representatives have said he is cooperating fully with police. In the wake of this case break-in, Burke has canceled multiple concerts, including a scheduled appearance at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles, where he was supposed to wrap up in LA and then eventually about a month later go towards Norway, hit the European side. So the car and its timeline, I wanted to bring this up because I think this is extremely important. The car is central. So the Tesla had been parked for weeks at the intersection of Bluebird Avenue and Dehaney Drive in the Hollywood Hills, where Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and West Hollywood converge. Neighbors reported seeing it there since late July or early August. There's a bit of a time frame there now. City parking enforcement first noticed the car on August 27th and later issued a ticket on September 3rd for exceeding the 72-hour limit. Records show it was eventually impounded on September 6th. Despite being checked multiple times by parking officers, no one reported on odor at that point. So even though people have said it, there was no report of an odor when it was picked up by the impound. And guys, this information I'm reading here is factual. It comes from a source. He shows you how he gets it. So I'm standing by this. Only when the car reached the tow yard did workers detect the smell, prompting LAPD detectives to obtain a warrant. Their search revealed, and this was the next day now. So again, this would be on the 8th now. LAPD detectives to obtain a warrant. The search revealed decomposed remains wrapped in a unique material that investigators are deliberately withholding from public knowledge to preserve the integrity of the case. So the identification was of Celeste Rivas. Initially, police only confirmed that the body belonged to a small female, about 5 feet tall and under 100 pounds. I think they said 71 pounds. But people have said that Celeste Rivas would have been around 120 pounds. So that could have been just that much decomposition. After several days, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner identified the victim as Celeste Rivas, who had just turned 15 on September 7th. This suggests she was only 14 when she died, sometime before the Tesla was impounded on September 6th. Celeste's family in Lake Elsinore had reported her missing back in April 2024. Her mother had posted flyers pleading for help. Her brother, Matthew Rivas, told NBC that Celeste personally knew the singer David. He claimed she had gone out with him before and that she was last seen leaving for a movie with him. That's the day she vanished, but she never came home. The conditions of the remains, I want to touch on that. Detectives described the remains as being in an advanced stage of decomposition, consistent with having been left in the car for weeks. And guys, it's extremely hot. It's a black car. The body is easily going to decompose very quickly. They confirmed the body was not intact, though they withheld details to prevent compromising the investigation. Police strongly believe Celeste did not die inside the Tesla, that her body was placed there later. The investigation, the LAPD Robbery Homicide Division, is leading the case. On September 17th, detectives executed a search warrant at Hollywood Hills home, reportedly rented for Burke. So Burke, it's the manager of Interscope that rented this location. And by the way, I think it's Holly Berry's old house. It's valued at like $4-something million, but it was $20,000 a month to rent out. So it's rent out by, I believe, the manager of Interscope Records, and it's for Burke. Burke will be staying there in LA. They were seen, the police were there. They were seen removing computers, storage devices, and possibly security cameras and security camera equipment. Investigators are working to determine whether Celeste was ever inside that home when she was last seen alive, and whether the home itself could have been the scene of her death. And by the way, there's security cameras all outside this house from the pictures I've seen. Forensic tests, including toxicology and tissue analysis are underway, but results may take weeks. The coroner has not yet released a cause or manner of death, as we mentioned, both of which are critical for advancing the case from a death investigation to a defined criminal case. So again, I'm going to quickly say where we stand now again. Celeste remains have been released to her family for burial. David has canceled the U.S. tours and returned to California. LAPD has not formally classified the case as a homicide, though the circumstances truly strongly suggest foul play. And detectives continue to gather digital evidence, analyze the Tesla's data log, and interview possible witnesses. At this point, one central fact is undeniable. Celeste Rivas did not put herself in that Tesla trunk. Someone else was involved. Whether her death was accidental, intentional, or part of a larger cover-up remains to be seen. Now, mind you, guys, when they found the body in the car and it was registered in David's name, he still did not cancel the concerts. They said that he canceled the concert or canceled his appearance when they started checking the house that was being rented out in LA. Now, I still want to give a couple updates before we go into the show. I want to make sure I get everything your way. Let me see. Okay, so I was watching Ashley Banfield. She's from News Nation. I've actually been on her show once before. And this is what she said on her channel. Ashley Banfield emphasized that while LAPD detectives are staying quiet, as they should, to protect the prosecution, the internet is buzzing with theories and connections. She highlighted that David canceled his tours, we talked about, only after police raided his $20,000 a month Hollywood Hills rental, seizing electronics and searching for possible blood or DNA evidence. Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose remains were found in Tesla trunk, would have turned 15 the day before discovery. She may have died weeks earlier, even before David went on tour. Despite the shocking discovery and her identification, David stayed on tour until the mansion search forced him home. He has since lawyered up and broken his lease. Some people are saying he's actively playing video games right now. There's people that are saying they see his screen name popping up. So there are people that follow him. Banfield pointed out troubling coincidences. The lease began in February of 2024, the same month Celeste reportedly first ran away. Reports and photos suggest an ongoing, possibly illegal relationship between the two, which we explored in yesterday's show, dating back to when she was 12 or 13 and he was around 17 or 19. Experts interviewed said prosecutors don't necessarily experts interviewed said prosecutors okay, let me just, I wrote that wrong. They don't necessarily need a cause of death to bring charges. We got that. Though decomposition makes things difficult, forensics could still reveal signs of strangulation, stabbing, or toxicology. LAPD is also digging through computers and tablets for digital evidence of the relationship. The speculation is intense. Theories range from overdose to pregnancy. There are some people that are saying, it hasn't been true, that she was pregnant and that the fetus was nearby her. That has not been confirmed, but it's out there. Banfield's legal guest stressed that LAPD is being methodical, but the longer this stays in the public spotlight, the more David's career, reputation, and liberty hang in the balance. Murder carries no statute of limitation, meaning even if charges aren't immediate, the case will follow him indefinitely. This case is as much about digital trails, circumstantial evidence, and timing as it is about forensics. The unanswered questions when Celeste died, how and what role David played, are driving both public obsession and prosecutorial caution. Now, the last part I have before we get into the show, and this is the part of controversy, the most recent update, but again, it has not been confirmed. There are people that say that what's being said here may not be truthful, that it may not be her, but right now people are trying to establish a timeline for Celeste. So this part here has become essential in part of that timeline. So basically there's a concert sighting last August of 2025. I want to show you a video real quick. I mean, this is a lot of work here, but I enjoy it. I'm not going to lie, because you get to learn so much. Okay, so I'm going to mute us real quick. Denise, are you able to mute?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Fans have been uploading pictures and videos from David's Silver Spring, Maryland's concert. And after seeing David send hearts to the balcony, they believe Celeste was up there with his brother Caleb. You take a look at the top, she has on a black tube top, but with blue jeans. And her being with her brother is a possibility since she was backstage at one of his concerts June 27th in Los Angeles. Here's a zoom in. And then in this clip, you see David sending hearts up there to the balcony. Now, no one knows if this is Celeste or not, but this is just something that the fans pointed out. If that was Celeste, that means Celeste was alive August the 24th, 2025. This literally could be the last seen video of Celeste alive. But I don't know. There are some similarities. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this could be Celeste? Or do you think it's someone else?
Hold on, guys. I just got to bring Denise in. I think it's right. Okay, so as you can see in that video, there are people that believe that that's her, but then there's a lot of people who believe that that's not her. And of course, it's grainy. It's extremely grainy. So the location here is reportedly at Silver Spring, Maryland concert on August 23rd or the 24th. So if that is her, there's a beginning of a timeline there. Video evidence, a girl in the balcony section wearing a black tube top, similar to what Celeste was last reported in. She seems to be watching David perform. And then you saw the part with the backstage. Online chatter claims she was photographed backstage with David's brother at the same show, which you kind of saw. There was a little bit of that. And the timeline impact, if verified, this pushes Celeste's confirmed presence to late August, narrowing the death window to the following 10 or 12 days before the Tesla was towed. And that would have been on September 6th, I think, or the 5th. I think it's the 6th, right? Because it was towed on the 6th. Around that, if it was, she was discovered on the 8th. I think I had to go through the weekend. So it's somewhere on the 5th or 6th. TMZ later reported, citing a source close to the case, that the girl in the concert video may not be Celeste, showing how uncertain and contested this evidence is. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, how could she travel? Well, there's rumor to believe that they were involved in getting fake IDs and that maybe he paid for them, I don't know, but that she did have fake IDs. That's been circulated in some popular resources. And also, he's got a lot of money. They could have took private jets. So her being there, and people are like, well, how could she have got there? She's 13. She's underage. If there were fake IDs or they had a private jet, I mean, it does make it extremely plausible. So TMZ reported Celeste may have had several fake IDs, enabling her to appear older than her real age. Purpose, these IDs would have allowed her to enter concerts or clubs where minors weren't permitted, travel or check into hotels without raising suspicion, appear older in the eyes of security staff or acquaintances of David. Funny thing is, real quick, guys, is that if this really did happen and she had the fake IDs, then obviously this could be her. But sometimes people create a narrative and they want it to be her so much when it may not be her, but they want it to be her, that they'll make the story fit. How implausible. But with that said, she could have fake IDs or she could have flown there with a private jet. Fake IDs would explain how she gained access to backstage areas at concerts, something usually restricted by age and security. And caution, this claim comes from anonymous sources and has not been confirmed by LAPD. Now, why these two details connect, concert access and fake IDs? If she was indeed at the Maryland concert, fake IDs could explain how she got in, especially backstage or into VIP sessions. Timeline credibility. If the girl really was Celeste, her use of fake IDs might also explain why authorities or others failed to intervene at that time. And the legal ramification. Even if fake IDs helped her pass as older, California law and most U.S. law does not excuse the liability of an adult engaged with a minor. And last part, the investigative angles moving forward, got to verify, right? Detectives will need to confirm whether the concert girl was Celeste through ticket scans, surveillance footage, or phone geolocation. Then you got the ID tracing. Any fake ID she had could be traced back to where they were purchased or who supplied them, adding context to how she navigated while missing and the narrative impact. Together, the Contra plus fake ID claims shift the public perception of her final weeks from a girl in hiding to someone moving more freely in the orbit of David. And guys, this all plays out too with, when she ran away, maybe during that time he could have been at a concert that she could have been at, or maybe in music videos. Even that first time she ran away sometime in April, did he film any videos at that time? All right, so now got all that done. Guys, this case is that complicated. 20 minutes to do a recap. If you want more specific details on this, again, I would check the video that we did yesterday. But now I want to talk about possible motives. And Denise, thank you so much. There was a lot there, so I truly appreciate you being patient with me, because someone that may just watch it without looking at the videos we did prior, know nothing about this case, will be extremely lost going forward if we didn't provide a little bit of a recap. So I want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so I thought we could discuss possible motives. Now, granted, as I said, there's nothing to confirm that she was murdered. A lot of people may believe she could have been because she was dismembered. But with that said, there's a lot of reasons in this sick world that we live in why they would dismember somebody. It could just be for concealment, because maybe she, let's say hypothetically, could have died of an overdose, and that's a minor in our house. We don't want to get involved in that, and I have a career. So I got a few motives here that I want to run by your way, and I have a couple of questions for you to answer if you don't mind. So here we go. Oh, you're awesome, by the way. So I wanted to do the obvious, the romantic, personal relationship gone wrong. So reports suggest that Celeste told friends she had a boyfriend named David. The matching tattoos and lyrical references to Celeste and his music have fueled speculation that she may have been linked to David. If true, secrecy and the pressure of exposure could have created, I hate that word, volatility. Help me out here.
Volatility.
Volatility, yeah. Age differences complicate matters further. What feels thrilling for a 15-year-old can be catastrophic for an adult in the public eye. So stress, jealousy, and fear of discovery could make small conflicts spiral dangerously. So the motive theory here is jealousy, conflict, or fear of exposure might have escalated into violence, and the angle to investigate would be detectives will review texts, direct messages, and phone records to confirm if there was any real relationship threats or abuse. And by the way, they're doing that already because she's underage, and they want to see if there was some grooming here or some sexual relationship between a minor and an adult. So first question, if Celeste and David truly had a relationship, how could secrecy and age differences have fueled conflict that might turn dangerous?
Well, certainly, I think this thought that you just had is the most plausible, because of the age difference, now she's got leverage on him. So anything that he does or doesn't do that she doesn't like, she can use that with, you're with a minor and I can call the police and so forth. So, I mean, this motive is pretty believable, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And there is, and we're going to get to it because in the next one I have obsession and control, but I just want to say something real quick. And I do agree with that. I think there is some level of control here, and that does give her the leverage, because at the end of the day, even if she was willing partner, she can't consent. So ultimately, she's still a victim, and he's done everything wrong. The blame was so it gives her a lot of leverage.
It does.
And I think that they have that shared tattoo, if that does define the relationship, and it's not just a coincidence, it could be a way of, we have a secret that no one's supposed to know, and that could signal control of her. Because once she put that tattoo on, that's an ultimate level of control. So Denise, would the threat of career-ending scandal increase the likelihood of rash or violent behavior?
Certainly. I mean, he had a lot to lose. He's renting a house for $20,000 a month, and he's got all these, he's got all these sponsors sort of looking at him, and then all of a sudden there's a problem. So it certainly gives him some motive, I believe.
And again, so even at this point, even if they did have a relationship, maybe his one motivation of keeping the relationship is because he has to control her.
Yeah.
Would that make sense?
Plus she's missing for a year. So, I mean, so that's not looking good for him, because he can't just break up with her. And what's going to happen? You know, she's reported missing for a year. He has said nothing. And now all of a sudden something has gone wrong, because all of a sudden, you know, within a couple of days, if that video is true, that happened on the 24th of August. And on the 27th, all of a sudden the car is ticketed because there's nobody there. That's 3 days.
And you know what? You know what's funny about all this? So they don't know. They really haven't been clear of where she first ran away to, somewhere around February of 2024, where she wasn't gone for as long. And I'm wondering, a lot of people think that was a test to see how much he can control her. And then by the time she ran away in April, it was going to be kind of like a more permanent thing. So like, and it makes sense. I think some children may tend to, you know, try to run away, maybe set something up, come back, and then finally realize, you know what, I'm done. I've done this before, and I'm just going to go ahead and ride this out. And then you never see him again. And one of the things we talked about in the show yesterday was, if he was a groomer, and obviously I believe he was, within context of what we're looking at here, when children run away or teenagers run away, me and Joe discussed something that was very important. Runaways are always considered low risk as opposed to abductions. And what get overlooked sometimes in low risk is that the child could be slowly being groomed. And it may appear that they're running away, but they may not be running away. They may be running towards something. And again, you know, running away could be running away from something, running towards something, or being manipulated to run away from something so you can run towards me. So, you know, I think in context, when they look at this, I think people that are in law enforcement should start maybe looking at runaways as maybe not so much of a low risk, and know that there could be a lot more grooming now, because you have access to social media. When this guy put himself on social media, he gave himself a huge audience. He became a groomer on a whole different level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you agree with that about the low risk? And you know, maybe we should do a little bit more.
Well, the other thing is, what she was missing so long, somehow somebody had to be paying for her to live. I mean, she's 14. It's not like she can get a job. So somebody's sustaining her to either stay somewhere or food or all the expenses that it has. So somebody's funding that.
Yes. And that's the question. Her all that stuff. I mean, someone had to be giving her money.
Yeah.
Now for the next section, for number 2, I wanted to put as a possible motive, we kind of touched on it, obsession and control. So the power imbalance between a minor and a rising celebrity raises obvious red flags. Even without a formal relationship, obsession and manipulation may have been in play. So in these scenarios, control often manifests as monitoring, isolating, or threatening the younger individual. When that control is resisted or broken, and we kind of touched on this, but the obsessed party may lash out. So the motive theory, so a possessive dynamic where rejection, exposure, or defiance triggered a violent outcome, and the investigative angle. Investigators will look for obsessive communication, attempts to isolate Celeste, or evidence of surveillance. Now, I want to mention something. So he kind of also led a very isolated life. So his music is a lot about isolated, you know, being isolated, whatever it is, secrecy. And now that may attract a teen girl, because a lot of teen girls in their formative years, I'm sure there are a lot that may feel isolated, alone. And now they got this person who understands a lot about them. And I think what happens here is, if he was to control her, which would be a lot easier for him to do because he is a celebrity. On top of that, he's older. He's got a lot of things in play that could easily give him the power over a naive little girl. But with that said, there are people he would not have that influence over. So he would have to remove her from anything that would create counter influence. That's why I believe there would be no effort to want her to stay connected with him. Not even just because of the age thing, but rather, hey, I'm trying something with your daughter here, and right now I can control her. I just don't need any counter influence here. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And in between the obsession, people tend to get sloppy. So the more obsessed they get, the more that they care less about the little details and the important parts, and they just sort of keep the power and control element in their wings, if you will.
Yes. And that's kind of where like we only see them on, like if that is her, it looks like they have a friendly dynamic on social media, but again, could be performative. What happens behind the scenes is really who somebody is. I mean, you see this all the time in cases with TikTok stars that, pretend to be this great loving couple or loving person, and they have an abusive side, and it's usually connected to their want to be famous. Yes. Which is the weirdest thing. So the two questions I have here, Denise, is how often does obsession or control drive violent outcomes in cases where power imbalances, and could that fit here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. People get obsessed and that's all they can think about. You've got to also factor in that he's a celebrity. So he's also very obsessed with power and being a celebrity and more money and so forth. What I don't think he factored in is that she had leverage on him.
Yes. And that due to the age, the fact that she could have, and that's another thing. That's another reason for the control, because obviously can't let her leave me.
Correct.
And to be honest with you, I'm wondering if he had established that ultimately when this relationship would have started and he knew that there were so many red flags, especially if he was buying her fake IDs, then he would definitely be knowing how old she was. If he knew ultimately that this relationship would have been a permanent relationship, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to let her leave me. Yeah, I can't. I can't let her leave me.
No, so, it's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous. And sometimes I think when that's the case and that person doesn't have the freedom to make that choice, it does become about ultimate control on the one side. And there's many ways they could do that. They can make someone feel hopeless, or they can literally be aggressive and make sure that that person never leaves. Yeah. And then I have, could an online or parasocial relationship intensify obsession to the point of dangerous real world consequences?
Well, certainly sometimes when you get online and so forth, reality is not exactly reality. It's not as factual as sometimes we portray it to be online. The interesting part for me is that no one working for him doesn't give him some helpful advice and sort of run sort of interference with some of this risk that is involved when you have somebody with so much power with an underage minor.
Yes. And that's sort of what, it was going at first with the body being recovered and then is this a murder, whatever. Now it's pushing more towards, hey, while we're trying to figure this out, what we got definitively is you were grooming this girl and you're a pedophile.
Yeah.
So I also have accidental death followed by concealment. You see this a lot because obviously you don't know what happened in that house, and she's still a minor. So if they're having drug use, all that stuff, there's reckless behavior there with a minor present. So not every tragedy is premeditated. Celeste's death may have been unintentional, overdose, medical emergency, or a reckless situation gone wrong. In such cases, the actual harm is compounded by panic. For someone with fame and resources on the line, the instinct may shift quickly from help her to protect myself. The concealment then becomes a greater crime. So the motive theories here is fear of scandal or career destruction may have led to hiding her body rather than calling for help. And then the investigative angle is autopsy and toxicology results will be critical. If her cause of death points to accident, the concealment becomes a central crime. I want to mention something here for this question. Let's say she's a young kid and we don't know if he's a party guy. We really don't know, but let's say she overdosed. Now you got a young kid, dead, overdose of drugs in a house that you're renting. And look at Interscope Records as well is going to be involved in all this. A house that you rented had a minor in it who now overdosed of drugs. That's why I think the body could have been put in a car. It wasn't well planned out. They didn't know what to do because they acted on impulse. Because some people say, well, how stupid could you be to put the body there? Like it wasn't hard. Yeah, not hard. Yeah, because it wasn't something planned. We're acting because something happened. And right now we're more focused about protecting ourselves. But then to leave the car there is a whole. But Denise, if Celeste's death was accidental, why would someone choose concealment over seeking help? And what does that say about fear of exposure?
Well, certainly you understand in his position why he would want to conceal it, but not that I've committed any heinous crimes lately, but why put it in your own car? And, what I've read on the reports is he never reported it stolen or missing. Mm-hmm. So it's not like if I'm a celebrity and all of a sudden I would be like, oh yeah, that car was stolen, but he doesn't even do that. And then initially he doesn't even cancel his tour when all of this gets discovered. I mean, there's just a lot of things that aren't quite polished as far as what he was doing or what happened.
Yeah, and if we play this motive out real quick, think about this. Let's say she did overdose. So he didn't intentionally go to kill her, but she overdosed. This is all in panic. He hides the body, lives life as normal because he doesn't think there's no way to connect me to her. She's a runaway. Maybe he forgets all these other connections that are coming out now, or maybe he forgets the freaking internet.
Yeah, right. Right.
A lot of the stuff that's coming out that law enforcement's following was definitely coming from the people on the internet. But I could picture that happening, an overdose, and then he gets nervous, his career, whatever it is, hides the girl. Maybe I'll think of something else. In the meantime, maybe he didn't even think about the body smelling. Who knows? In the meantime, he takes off, does his concert as normal. Maybe there's pressure to, get that concert moving, and then he'll return, visit, and basically, check on things when he gets back. And then eventually, because here's another thing too. He could have been all alone in this. So let's say she overdosed, or let's say he accidentally killed her, either way, or killed her, whatever, either way. But let's say she died, and he's the only person there that knows of that death. He doesn't have probably an entourage that may help him with this. It's just going to be him. So he may probably do whatever he can that's convenient until he can figure it out. But maybe it's like, hey, we got to go to the concert the next day. Shit. And then he pretends to go as normal because, and he's got the body in the car. So maybe the body wasn't supposed to be left there, but he didn't have a chance to do what he had to do on his own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but who cut up the body? I mean, that goes to another level of.
Could that have been him in desperation?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, the cutting up the body does work well with concealment, though. That's a great question, though. That's a whole nother
whole can of worms.
So how might forensic evidence distinguish between an accident? Oh, here, panicked. Oh, wait, sorry. My writing, man. How might forensic evidence distinguish between an accident, panicked over, and a deliberate attempt to disguise homicide?
Well, I mean, the panic you can understand with any sort of tragic situation. The cutting up and the concealment is like another level of concern. Because there's one thing, people panic. Most of the time when they panic, they don't do anything because they just sort of freeze. But in this case, somebody cut up a body, and I don't know how they thought putting it in his car and leaving it, because I used to be an ICU nurse, but the smell of a decomposing body is horrific. How he thought that people were just not going to notice that was beyond me.
Yeah, and I think it's going to matter because a lot of people will wonder, hey, could she have been saved? Even if she overdosed, even if it was accidental, could she have been saved? And we may never know that.
Yeah.
We may never know that. That's interesting. And again, this is all just, a perspective, but as we talk it out, I mean, it does make sense that if he would have killed her, or she died accidentally, either way, he's got liability both ways. What am I going to do? My career's up, and then he has to manage this on his own somehow. So there's cameras all over the place. I mean, that's another reason why I think it's more panicked, because of how, you never know, people could be stupid, but of how sloppy it is.
Yeah, they do get sloppy when they get obsessive.
Yes, very, very sloppy. Add a little panic to that, and it doesn't make sense why he put him in his own car registered. Well, he wasn't thinking like that.
No,
and it's funny too, Denise, because sometimes what happens here is it's not about covering it up. It's about making it look like it never even exists, to the point where people ask. So if there was no connection to her, he may not have thought that, well, no one's going to come to me to ask about this girl. So if that's the case, I'm just going to go ahead and, do what I got to do, because no one's even going to look in my direction. That's the funny thing about manipulation too, with those inmates that hide stuff. The best inmates, that are the ones that concealing some good quality items in the prison world are the ones that make you think not even to look their way.
Yeah, they do. And
So,
talk about arrogant.
Yeah, but that could be it too. Like maybe he was sloppy, but his thought was, you know what? No one's going to look my way anyway.
Yeah.
But then social media. Interesting. So I got deliberate cover up of a crime. So this theory assumes intent from the start. That violence occurred and concealment followed. So using a Tesla, one of the most trackable vehicles on the road, suggests either recklessness or panic. A deliberate act would typically involve more careful disposal unless the offender believed control of the car gave them control of the evidence. And that's why I think, like, even when the investigators investigate this, they're going to probably look at all the sloppiness and say, nah, this guy, I don't think this was planned. I think something happened. And maybe when they interview him or interrogate him, whatever it is, they could approach that side. Listen, whatever happened, you didn't mean to kill her, right? You know, and they'll play the side to see, because everything shows that it could be someone in panic. The motive theory. So a violent act was committed, followed by an effort to hide the evidence. And then the investigative angle will be the Tesla tech log. So GPS timestamps plus forensic traces inside will tell when and how the body was placed there and by whom. Now, if this was a deliberate crime, again, why use a Tesla, one of the most trackable vehicles, to conceal the body?
Yeah. And where was the car found? It was like on a street, because it was ticketed, they said.
Yeah, it was found like kind of like an intersection where like Hollywood and Beverly Hills, kind of like at this one spot. But yes, it was found on the street.
Yeah. So they have to have some sort of cameras there, I imagine, hopefully.
Yeah. And if it was given tickets, I actually watched the guy, NBC LA. He showed a citation. He looked it up and showed the citation. So there was definitely a ticket, and then you have the impounding. Was that August 27th, and then they impounded it on the 6th, September 6th. And then does the sloppiness of the concealment suggest panic, or could it have been arrogance, a belief the truth would never be uncovered? You just said that.
I would have said arrogance, because you panic, but panic doesn't make you do a horrific crime. I mean, that goes to another level. You know, people panic and people do things, but they don't usually go to the point of cutting things up and being so sloppy and all that, and then going on tour. I mean,
right. But Denise, you're spot on. I think at that point there, he was desperate, and maybe he was alone in this.
Yeah. Then he goes on tour like nothing happened, which is even more concerning.
Yep. And maybe cutting well, it's funny because I agree with that. But if I was to get into his head, maybe all this happened right before he had to go on tour. Like right before he had to maybe take off on plane, whatever it was. So maybe the rush or the panic comes from also the pressure of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if that
Plus
makes
he's
sense.
20, right? He's 20 years old.
Yeah,
20 years old, and he's with a minor. And I mean, it's just, one mistake, one bad decision after another.
Yeah. And the big thing here would be him being caught with her in his proximity.
Yeah.
How would you explain that? So the next questions I got, so we got two more areas, so bear with me. I put third-party involvement just in case. So it's possible David himself wasn't involved and someone else used his car. Opportunistic access, jealousy, or even framing could explain Celeste's presence in the Tesla. In that scenario, the case becomes less about motive and more about proving access and timelines. And that makes sense, right? So, hey, was he in the vehicle? I know he owned it, but was he in the vehicle? Well, how could he have been in the vehicle if he was at the concert? So there's that, but they got to get that timeline right with when her body got there. That's extremely important. Yes. And the chain of, and then the chain of custody of the car will be central. We talked about that, right, Denise? And who drove it, who had the keys, and when. So the motive here is convenience or framing, using the car either because it was available or to redirect suspicion, and the investigative angle. The key question is chain of custody. Who last had the Tesla, who moved it, and when Celeste was placed inside. So two questions for you here is, could someone else have used the Tesla to frame David, and how would investigators prove or disprove that?
Well, I will tell you, having worked with some high celebrity people, professional athletes and all that, they have layers and layers of people. So it's not like, somebody accidentally takes their car off. I mean, there's always somebody who knows, who's accountable for something. And the fact that like somebody took his car and maybe did something that they shouldn't have, it's not really plausible to me.
Right. And that's the thing right now. The thing is, they have to still approach it as if it could happen, and then they have to weed it out by how implausible that would be. But it still has to be mentioned, because I'll guarantee you, if they were still battling for evidence, this would definitely come up, would be, hey, I'm not that David, and I know he was in my car, but prove I put him in there.
Yeah. Or so I know who's in charge of my cars, or I know, down here in Sarasota, usually there's a home, there's many homes, and they have people that are in charge of their homes. So if there's a problem at their home in Sarasota, their manager handles all that. So it's not like, everything is sort of a free for all. Yep. They have somebody managing everything.
And that gives an alibi, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Or not even an alibi, not enough to pin it to one person.
Yeah. There's got to be more people that know what's going on. That's what I'm saying. There's a team.
Yes. There's definitely, at minimum, people that knew she was underage.
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely. We have some leverage. If we're going to do the investigation, we have some leverage. Say, okay, you may not know what happened to this girl, but let's start talking about her.
You knew she was around him.
And then I got, if a third party was responsible, what motive would they have had to involve Celeste specifically and risk linking the act to a celebrity?
I haven't. That's the $1 million question. I just can't see a third party involvement in this. It doesn't make any sense. But, as you know, as well as I do, with all this crime, a lot of it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's kind of like
not the truth.
Kind of like all the cases we've been
getting. All the cases that we do. They don't make any sense.
This is Riverside County too, Denise. This is the same as the Manuel Harrow case.
Mm-hmm.
So this is. Oh, what was that, Denise?
A lot of similarities, aren't there?
Yeah, it is, and seems to be young victims.
Mm-hmm.
So I got one that's a little less probable. Let me go ahead and put this on. This is a little less probable, but symbolic or ritualistic theory, very fringe. Some online speculation points to tattoos, lyrics, or even celestial timing, like the blood moon. While law enforcement generally dismisses such ideas without evidence, symbolic narratives thrive online because they add drama and mystery. Even if unfounded, they shape public perception and can pressure investigators. So if true, it would suggest obsession with image or symbolism rather than a direct personal conflict. And police may briefly explore this by reviewing songs, journals, or communication, but only if supported by hard evidence. So I just had to put it in there because it is being mentioned. So why do symbolic or real ritualistic theories capture public's imagination in high-profile cases, even when evidence is thin?
Well, with the symbolic, and so they have their matching tattoos, and he's written songs about them. So if anything, to me, that shows me that they had an established relationship more than a symbolic theory or some sort of ritualistic thing.
Yeah, so it goes way beyond something just surfaced.
Yeah, like you don't just get matching tattoos with somebody you casually know.
True. And then, right, and we discussed that yesterday. I mean, obviously there's trends. He's on TikTok. But if you look at the context of everything, that tattoo to me does become more evidence towards that there was a deeper relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if I looked at the tattoo alone and there was no context, okay, she's trending. Popular guy, she'll tat. But there's more to it than just the tattoo.
Yes.
And could fixation on symbolic clues distract investigators from more tangible evidence?
I would say no. If I'm looking at this, I mean, this is not something, this to me establishes relationship more so than anything else. And the fact that he writes songs to her. I mean, you could say, oh, she got a tattoo because she saw that he had a tattoo. Okay, that's neither here nor there. But the fact that he's writing songs and, other people confirm that they had some sort of, they knew each other, put it that way. That make it the lesser of the evils. They did have a relationship with each other.
And to be honest, at this point here, I think most of the focus is literally to showcase that there is a relationship. So again, when he was being cooperative in what? Did he admit that there was a relationship, or is he just trying to create his own narrative? they're very unclear with what cooperative means.
True.
I got the last section, then the closing thought. So common threads, panic and secrecy. So whether the cause was relationship, conflict, obsession, accident, or intentional harm, the concealment of Celeste's body in the Tesla speaks to panic and a desperate need to hide something. And I agree with that. I really do. I'm starting to push on that theory. The act of concealment is often as telling as the initial harm. It reveals fear, motive, and an attempt to control the narrative. So across all these theories, why does concealment, hiding the body, stand out as the strongest common thread?
Well, hiding the body is, to me, the worst part. I mean, it's one thing if she overdosed and, they call it in and they said, listen, she was here partying and so forth. Okay, that's one thing. But to cut the poor girl up and put her in a trunk and then go off like nothing happened is really concerning to me. That's the worst part. That's just gruesome.
Yep. And again, it is not to stop and say, no, what the tour's got to hold off.
Right. Exactly. Like this happened. This was found in my car. I don't know what happened and I'm going to take accountability, but
and it's funny because for someone that relates to isolation, all that stuff, he put himself on social media.
Yeah. So
it makes you think, is all this other stuff just a fraud?
Usually
people that are isolated like to remain isolated.
Yeah.
What does the choice of concealment location, a personal car, reveal about state of mind? You said it right, but we'll just revisit: panic, arrogance, or lack of planning. I think it's everything, like you said.
I think it is too. I think it's all three. The arrogance being the number one. But I tell you, I see this all the time when these guys get powerful, even politicians and people of high profile, they could just get really sloppy. And, and they also think that they're untouchable.
Yeah. And I agree. I like how you brought up arrogance because I didn't even think that angle. So I thought I was thinking more towards the panic because he's in desperation, his career, pressure of time. Maybe he's got to up and go. And as I said, maybe no one else knows about this part. And maybe when the body was discovered, the people that were around him at that time, their mind could have been blown. Like, holy shit, what happened here? But now someone's going to fold because I think there are people that are like, hey, listen, I'll tell you these things, but I'm not involved in that freaking murder or whatever. I'm not involved in the death of that girl. Let's just do that. So you want to know about maybe me knowing that she was underage? Okay, fine. You know what? I'll give you some of that. But I want you to know I'm not involved in the death of this girl. So if you want to go the lesser of two evils, screw it. I wasn't having sex with her. So I'll give you what I know, but I can't be involved in this.
Yeah.
Then the closing notes I have here is, at this stage, much of what we know is circumstantial. The car, the tattoo, the songs, the mother's claim about a boyfriend named David. And guys, you can see a lot of that in my video from yesterday. These may point to motive or they may be coincidental. And then the coincidence is just amplified by the internet. Until forensics timelines and hard evidence emerge, the true motive remains uncertain. Speculation frames possibilities, but only evidence brings resolution. So how should the public balance speculation with patience for real evidence in cases that gain massive attention like this?
Well, any of these profiles that do high-profile celebrities that do these heinous crimes, they're going to get a lot of social media attention. So that's just going to happen. But honestly, I really feel like these people, everybody needs to be held accountable equally. But although this timeline, we have a lot of speculation, I think it's pretty clear, and I think he's going to have a hard time answering a lot of hard questions that are coming his way.
Yeah, and when your life's an open book, trust and believe, you don't remember half the stuff you posted.
You don't. And in fact, even when you interview people, now everybody's looking, the bosses are all looking into their social media. And I know I myself have not hired people because I've looked at some of the things that they post online and I think, nope. So you got to be careful. I mean, they're in the limelight. Not only are they filming stuff, but people that are around them are filming.
And the only thing I have to say, too, with this is that if the girl was underage, she ran away, obviously there'd be people looking for her. you'd be foolish to put her out there in the world through social media. And then there's that post where she said, you got to erase this. And he's like, yeah, can we erase this? Now, maybe there's another reason why they want to erase it, because there is an edit there and it doesn't tell you what prompted her to say you got to erase it, because a lot of people think that girl's the other Celeste and they're very similar. But I mean, to know that this girl is missing, posters about her all over the place, and you're going to go ahead and try to put her out there, someone's going to recognize her face, even if you changed her name.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And then the last question I got is, does the constant swirl of online theories help keep attention on the case or risk distorting the truth before facts are established?
Well, it certainly keeps authorities invested in the case, but I have a feeling they're going to do their due diligence regardless, because this is an underage kid that's been gone for a year and found in a trunk, and I mean they're going to do what they got to do.
It's a kid.
Yeah, very sad.
Denise, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Well, I would love for people to visit me at deniseschoenwald.com. Let's connect further. And thank you, Anthony, for having me on the show. It's always an honor.
Yeah, always a pleasure here. And I would like to have you on later in the week. So I'm going to updates are coming out here like crazy. So I'll keep on looking for some updates for this. But then we got some court cases coming up of stuff we already covered. The Emmanuel Harrow case, that should be mid-October. Lincoln Snellen's coming up. I think that's the first one out of them all with the baby. And then I do want to touch on waiting to find out what's going on with Christina Fermello, whatever, the teacher pedophile. Yeah. And now we'll add this case to the mix. But this case actually seems to have breaking evidence every day. So once they get charged, or if there is a charge put out there, we're definitely going to be jumping on that real quick and see which one of our theories played out.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. And Denise, you're awesome. Thank you for taking your time, and I'll reach out to you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Denise.